battling with a little bit of a squirrely moment there on the bottom as he was snapped tight on the exit of the corner. Christian Challenger trying to stay off the back of Evermitis. They're going to go 3-1 as they come down the front stretch with Travis Worley on the bottom. There's contact. They still keep going.
Whirling all the way to the bottom, but he doesn't have the speed. He's pinched too far to the inside. Challenger on the high side. He's going to be able to get the nose ahead. We are going green to the finish. Abramitis has the inside, but can he get it off the corner? He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. It's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it? Abramitis takes the win by 7 thousandths of a second. The top 5 were only 700ths between each other. Unbelievable finish.
Pulling up ahead, but it's going to be 3 wide as they head down to turn 1. Look at that. That's Ian Haycox making the move for the lead on the inside. They're almost 4 wide behind him. That's Reed Miller who gets into the back of everybody. He cleans out Yuko Leskala.
Unbelievable! Haycox with a move that saved his bacon. He gets a great run, covering down to the inside, almost all the way to the grass. He'll force Holly to go the long way around as they approach Rent. Kings is still potentially in this. No, he's starting to drop back as he tied on fuel here. As Holly tries to go around, he might have the speed to do it if he can just challenge him down to the line. He is a little bit wide. Now Kings is coming back. They are running out of fuel. It's going to be Kings who goes from 3rd to 1st at the final run. Oh, this is a bad place to catch him. He's going to be able to get through 1. That's some distance. That is the buffer that he needs. I think that's going to do it for Guven. All he needs to be is fast off the final corner. He spins it. The final corner. Vico's going to win off the final turn and beat Guven, who led this entire race.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Thursday night action continues in the Precision Racing League as we head to Japan and Australia once again for round 4 of the Precision Racing League GT3 and Formula 3 series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Reese Gardner, and with me in the booth is Justin Prince. Behind the scenes is our director Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Suzuka is where we start in the fixed Ferrari GT3 challenge, an incredible track with plenty of history and plenty of places to slip up. Let's check out the track guide to learn more.
Welcome to Suzuka Circuit, perhaps most famous for its hosting of the Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix for much of the event's history. This track sees all sorts of racing besides that. In fact, this place began as a test track for Honda, but later proved to be a driver and fan favorite for competitive motorsports as well. The full layout of the Grand Prix course steals the show, but there's actually 5 different versions that can be run on iRacing. With their lap lengths ranging from just over 2 kilometers to nearly 6 kilometers, plenty of different types of cars can suit the track. GT racing and lower-level open-wheelers are quite popular, but motorcycles are also a staple here. Some of the corners have become world-renowned over the years. The S's are often cited as one of the great tests of a driver's technical prowess. Then, of course, there's Degner's 1 and 2, which provide very little runoff considering their fast and narrow entry. Later on, the long backstretch leads up to the notorious 130R, which is blindingly fast. The Casio Triangle offers one last chance at an overtake if you're brave, but has been the scene of many drivers clattering into one another over the years. F1 fans will be quick to cite the infamous coming together here between Senna and Prost. However, real-life visitors will find it's more than the racing that provides some viewing pleasures. The unique ways in which the Japanese fans celebrate their favorite cars and drivers certainly capture your attention. But it's no wonder they're such fanatics, because who wouldn't be with one of the world's greatest tracks right in your backyard?
Well, Justin, Suzuka is one of those tracks that almost needs no introduction, host of the Japanese Grand Prix for many a year, and certainly a place that the drivers in the Ferrari series will be looking forward to.
Especially when it comes to its 3.6 miles, 5.8 kilometers. It's a circuit that has its ebbs and flows, so to speak. The snake can be pretty tricky for drivers to try and master, but the main sections to keep an eye on are the hairpin, for example. Some drivers tend to really dare make some dives. The Degner bends, for example, as well. Very dangerous and will be likely one of the main attrition spots. Spoon curb to run towards the backstretch, towards that major passing opportunity of 130R to the Casio Triangle. Also going to be critical for these drivers in the Ferraris to hit to precision if they want a chance here, Reese.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of places where you can slip up here at Suzuka, particularly in that Sector 1. The prime overtaking opportunities more than likely going to be at the hairpin and at the Casio Triangle as well. And the drivers are going to be racing for 35 minutes, which means that's probably going to work out to about 16, maybe 17 laps with the pace that they have around here, about 2-minute lap times. Our broadcast tonight is brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
And finally, PRL is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
This is how things stack up in the Ferraris in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Alec Bergstrom, despite having yet to win a race this season, had actually extended his championship lead last round with yet another podium. Really interesting stuff there. The likes of Eric Dube, Nick McLaughlin, they have taken wins in the early phase of the season, Justin, but they just haven't been as consistent as Mr. Bergstrom.
When it comes to championships, consistency is important, especially as a unit, and that's why, in turn, when you look at the team standings, Cloud Valve Racing is at the top of the standings. Eagle Vision Racing, though, is really lasering in and focusing their eagle eye vision on that top spot, 3 points behind. Viking Hot Rod Racing look to row their way up into the mix as well, 11 points back. F-Red Racing and Car Ramrod, the top 5, pretty tight in the team standings, fairly tight in the driver standings.
Yeah, it's looking incredibly tight as we come to a track that has some very tight corners. Round 5 of 10, a 35-minute race. All of the drivers, of course, running the same settings, though they can change their brake bias settings. You get a drive-through penalty at 13 incidents, and you're disqualified at 17. And, of course, you got those bonus points for pole, fastest lap, and 3 incidents or less. So qualifying has begun here at Suzuka, and it's looking quite cloudy out there. This 5.81 kilometer track, quite in a part of the world where the weather can get quite cold, and as you see, it is a 24-degree track temperature, 23-degree air temperature if you're using Celsius, Fahrenheit measurements up there as well. But have a look at that humidity. It's about half, so the engines should be operating at their optimum level, but at the same time, all of this cloud cover over the track, Justin, this is just improving the grip that the drivers might have.
Yeah, the grip levels are going to be expected to be high because of this cold track temperatures, so expect some pretty quick pace, but it's also going to be important to make sure you don't carry too much pace, so to speak, where you're ending up having so much grip, so much confidence that you overshoot a corner trying to send it on in. You may see drivers go a little bit deeper in the braking marks because that the fastest times in practice for reference in the 157s here today.
Yeah, that 157.457 set by Nick McLaughlin with Kenny Duval 3/10 behind him. But the first of our laps begins. The drivers only have 10 minutes and they have a maximum of 4 laps that they can do, but I suspect that the majority of the drivers will not be able to get those 4 laps in. Here is Nick McLaughlin here for the Cloud Valve team, and certainly you're right, Justin. The consistency of Cloud Valve has been magnificent this season. They've yet to really get a proper 1-2 finish, though. They may have it a couple of points, but the thing is, these two guys, they've either not shown up for races or they've made mistakes. Eric Luke, teammate to Nick McLaughlin at Cloud Valve Racing, he has had so much potential for some fantastic results, but at 2 of the rounds he's competed in so far, he's had pit lane issues, and Suzuka has a pit lane that's very hard to get right as well.
Yeah, especially since the pit entry is essentially a pull-off from the racing line coming out of the final corner in the Casio Triangle. So if you want to be able to contend, you have to be able to get that preparation in. If you haven't practiced that pit entry, I think it's going to be a long night. But the main thing to emphasize too with McLaughlin is with how the momentum's been going his direction after he missed his round earlier, a win here tonight might put him back in the mix fully when it comes to that championship complexion we talked about.
Yeah, that it should. It will be interesting to see if he can hold on for a good result considering his practice pace. Well, Kenny Duval is going to be one of the drivers that comes to the end of a qualifying lap first, and that is starting to fall away a little. 1 minute 59.193 for his first lap. And that's a far cry from his pace in practice. Alec Bergstrom goes to the top, then David Cristelli, David Boucher and Jack Clark slot into 7th and 8th on their first runs. Matthias Arangua manages to set a 2-minute .902 for what becomes 10th place. And there goes Owen McLaughlin to the top of the standings, 58.2 that's an excellent time there. Nick McLaughlin, I think, backing off a little bit on his initial lap, not quite able to match it.
As a matter of fact, didn't have a completed lap. If you end up cutting across any of the grass or across too much of a rumble strip, it does invalidate the lap time. That happened to the 63 of Kennedy. We've always seen towards the line, McLaughlin there as well. But it's going to be, I think, important if you're the 62 to keep up with this man, because he's been lightning quick from the get-go. Consistency-wise, he's been there. His fastest time is the 158, yes, but a vast majority of his times in the session went towards that mark. I think he's got the race pace. It's just a matter of, well, the qualifying order stick this way, especially since when you factor in the potential of the fuel tank restriction, that track position could be important to be able to potentially save fuel off of your contenders or competitors for today.
Yes, indeed. Well, I think that 40% fuel tank restriction forcing a stop here tonight. There's always big potential for mistakes to be made, for drivers to sit in the pits a bit too long, to have tyres selected as well. And you mentioned track position. Well, it's a very difficult track to pass on, particularly in that first sector. If you end up getting a full head of steam down the front stretch and you're not able to get by into turn one, then you're pretty much going to be stuck behind until you get to the hairpin. So maybe a bit of an undercut would be the way to go.
Possibly. I've also seen in many cases with drivers trying to push the limits, trying to go far and put in the least amount of fuel as possible in the edge of the tank, because in a normal fuel tank circumstance, you have to factor in it's about 55 minutes to about an hour or so when it comes to the Ferrari. You cut that by about 40%, we're talking about 20, 25 minutes. Some teams and some drivers may say, if I'm going to contend, I'm going to have to try and stretch it out here and maybe go for a 16, 17 second stop compared to those splitting up the middle, though. Or maybe along that line to where it's an extra 5 seconds or so in the box. And we've seen in the past, I think, how big those differences can be.
Yeah, we have indeed. Well, Nick McLaughlin, we saw just going to pole position. Meanwhile, he'll have the pit strategy last on his mind at the moment. Mark File is, or File, sorry, is File. My apologies. It's an early morning for me here in Australia. Mark File is making his way along to the Spoon Complex and currently down there in 11th place. I tell you what, the fact that these drivers are able to get more towards the end of their runs now is pretty phenomenal. There's been a few mistakes made. I've seen Alec Bergstrom go for a spin. Owen McLaughlin still remaining in second place, but certainly it's still quite close between him and Nick McLaughlin. Let's see what File can do here to break into the top 10. What he needs is 3/10 to pip Charles Sumner into 10th place.
Yeah, I'm curious if he's going to be able to get this done cleanly, especially since you don't want to end up being towards the back half of the field, I don't think. You don't want to have to pass 10 cars, let's put it that way. This time around, though, it does count a 159.608. That only gets him up one spot past Charles Sumner in that red and black machine that shows its frustration to certain people.
Yes, indeed. There's Sean Duhamel in the Ukraine flag-inspired livery. Only got about a minute 30 left on the clock, so I somehow doubt that he'll be able to get to the line in time. This is going to be an interesting lap to watch here from Sean. Sumner, though, he is halfway around the lap at the moment, coming into the hairpin. Let's see if he can respond to Mark File's lap. A start in the top 10 would certainly be good for the spirits.
I think so as well, because the main thing when it comes to Charles Sumner is he struggled in practice, I noticed, especially in terms of completing validated laps and making its way around. 9 laps only attempted, completed just 4 of them, the best lap in the 201s. He's massively improved compared to his practice to where he's picked up about a second and a half or so. The tough thing I'm noticing, though, is with him, he's having a lot of struggles in the lower speed sections to get the car to rotate. That may hurt him a lot here on the stopwatch. He did back off a ton last lap, however, to about 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, okay. That could turn into an interesting situation at the end of this qualifying session. Well, only 20 seconds left on the clock.
And there it goes.
Yeah, that's a shame there for Sumner. He's going to bring that one straight into the pits. Practices pit entry one final time. Looks like there's still David Boucher, Matthias Arangua, and Baron Hilton out on track, but they are not going to have time to get to the line. And that is how things are going to stack up here at Suzuka. Round 5 of the Precision Racing League Ferrari GT3 Series. And it's going to be Nick McLaughlin who starts on pole position. Owen McLaughlin is going to share the first row with him, David Cristelli and Alec Bergstrom on row 2. Kenny Duval and Dave Peterson 5th and 6th, with Spencer Semkovich and Sean Duhamel in 7th and 8th. Paul Wildridge and Mark Feil rounding out the top 10.
Charles Sumner starts 11th tonight with Donald Olson in the 12th spot, separation in about 4/10 between them. David Boucher starts 13th, with Jack Clark in 14th. Mateus Nagawa starts off in 15th today in his pink machine, with Eric Dubé in 16th. Then it's Baron Hilton, the last qualifier, and David Hebert rounds out the 18 drivers. Keep in mind, the 16 did not go out for qualifying tonight.
And David Hebert's lap in practice was the slowest of all at a 2:02.5. That was more than a second off Jack Clark's time. So we'll see if Hebert takes to the start. It looks like he will, but he might be at a bit of a disadvantage here coming into this race. But it's going to be Nick and Owen, the two McLaughlins with slightly different spellings of that last name, leading them away here off the short formation lap. Suzuka, one of those tracks that's incredibly long, and so a full formation lap around here probably isn't for the best. So you have the option to grid up here on the back stretch, heading up to 130R, and this is a corner where there's potential for some pretty crazy moves to be made. I remember Schumacher and Alonso in 2006, I believe, and that would certainly be a fun place to go in the Ferraris, but I think they'll try to give each other a bit more space there as we come up to the green flag, Casio triangle. The exit here is where you can certainly put the power down. When does Nick McLaughlin decide to do it? The drivers will stay in double file. It looks like McLaughlin is just giving people a chance to form up behind him before he goes. Wait for the drop of the green flag then as the pace car comes into the lane. And Nick McLaughlin goes. We are racing in the PRL Ferrari GT3 series, and it's already 3 wide for second. Alec Bergstrom is going to go right through the middle of David Cristelli and Owen McLaughlin to get into second place. Will Cristelli fling it up the inside into turn 1? Yes, he will, as the positions get gradually sorted here throughout the field. Looks like a clean start from everyone so far.
It just looked like everybody second on back was just caught sleeping, to the point where no one even realized, I think he was hitting the gas until he was 5 car lengths up the road. Absolutely incredible, to say the very least. And now Nick McLaughlin is nearly a full second up because of how much he caught everyone else off guard.
Fantastic start and very well executed. Well, let's see if David Cristelli can catch back up to him as they enter the Degner turns for the first time. It wasn't the best of starts there for Owen McLaughlin. He's fallen down to 4th now, thanks to that. He was really caught sleeping on that restart. Let's see if there's anyone close enough to try for a dive into the hairpin. It looks like everyone's mostly single file for now. It doesn't seem like there's any big moves to be made just yet. These drivers are very patient, very careful. They're going to wait and see if they can get those moves done. But we check out David Cristelli, a driver who has missed out on a couple of excellent results here in this series, but certainly has some podiums under his belt and is a threat for those race wins. Alec Bergstrom, though, taking a little bit of extra curb there on the exit of Spoon. There's someone very wide there in Spoon. And it looks like that was Spencer Semkovich. He's going to be side by side with Mark Feil on the way up to 130R. Oh dear, this could get interesting, Justin.
Somebody's going to have to lift here. It looks like it's going to be Semkovich who will have to do so, just barely avoiding any off track, if any. But Wildridge amongst those really able to take advantage. One thing I will give a shout out to, the 87, Eric Dubé, is already up 3 spots from the get-go, he immediately tried to charge ahead in those same sections that we've seen calmness towards the front.
Good stuff from Eric Dubé, and he will put himself up into 13th place. He's got a bit of a gap ahead, though, to Charles Sumner and Donald Olson, who are starting to come together for a little battle here. Sumner chasing down in the Tropicana number 98, and that's actually a proper train of cars in front of them. Oh, yeah, Spinner in the back.
That's the 21, David Boucher, who goes around this time. Just looked like he carried too much speed, headed a bit of the curve to the right side of the racetrack there, Reese. Just spun him around.
That's a shame. Very easy to do in the first couple of turns here at Suzuka, though. It's a double apex, constantly slowing down, braking and turning at the same time. Well, the battle for second looks like it's settled down for now. Alec Bergstrom, the championship leader there, running in third place behind this guy. David Cristelli is, oh dear, that's Semkovic at the Degner corners. And this is another one of those places around this track that, oh, there's more cars involved.
Well, Semkovic is one of them. File is the other car. Both of them making contact, it looks like, because in the battle for 7th, Semkovic tried to send it to the right side of the track. Take a look at the GSRC replay machine. This is not the place you passed. That is a one-lane corner, and he tried to force it in.
Yeah, that's definitely not a move you go for at that corner, especially from that far back. There is no way you can fit two cars side by side through the first of the Degner corners, not just because of that big curb on the inside. Look at this. Man, Mark File, there was nothing that he could do there.
Yeah, a huge amount of contact and damage picked up as a result for both of them. All the way 21 to 25 seconds back as a result. File, I think, got the worst of it, though. He's already lost about half a second this sentence. By the way, up towards the front, the small groupings are picking up, I've noticed, because third on back has started to group up. 4th and to 6th, I should say, as well, grouping a bit. 9th and 11th grouping in, so the flow of the race is starting to break on in. Good
to see. Here's David Cristelli and Alec Bergstrom fighting for that second spot, as it seems Nick McLaughlin is just streaking off into the distance. He leads by 1.5 seconds now. And they're going to have to keep an eye out for Owen McLaughlin as well, because it seems that he's keeping himself in there, keeping himself within the margin, but oh dear, that looks like a little bit of a tight entry to the Dunlop curve. That might hurt him a little. But Mr. Bergstrom, I think it's insane that he is the championship leader despite having yet to win a race this season. All about consistency there. Kenny Duval and Dave Peterson will be hoping for a bit of consistency here as well, as long as they don't run into each other. Let's see what they can do on the way into the hairpin. No moves here, though the track does widen up a little bit to try and help you make that maneuver. Looks like the driver of the number 63, Kenny Duval, is going to be waiting potentially for the Casio triangle to make a move. It's all about the exit of spoon, though.
Yeah, and I've noticed a few drivers have really struggled with the grip there, even with the conditions, especially in the line. Usually drivers like to track out a little bit towards the curbing right about here, get themselves to power it down. A few have struggled to get even out there and getting a little loose on exit with how quick they're getting to the gas. Peterson, I think, is within range, though, to be attacked possibly with the slipstream if Duval wants to take it.
Not able to get the move done into 130R, and oh, maybe a little bit of aero disturbance there for Kenny. These GT3 cars, they don't produce as much downforce as the open wheelers that you usually see racing here, but they can be affected by the wake of a car behind with those basic aerodynamic devices on the cars. And another slipstreaming opportunity here down the front stretch. Still looks very close there between Cristelli and Bergstrom, but now it's a three-car battle, it seems, between McLaughlin, Peterson, and Duval. McLaughlin is dropping off that top three.
And McLaughlin, I think, right now is just struggling a little bit after that rough start to this race. Just can't keep the draft he needs to be able to keep with the pace of the 29 and the 66. The intriguing thing is, with these two cars you see center screen right now in particular, the flow that's trying to break out here. Peterson, I think, is really trying to save a little bit of fuel off McLaughlin. Duval, you can argue, trying to save a lot of fuel off the back end of him because he's a little bit quicker in terms of confidence in the apex of the corners, but he's been trying to keep it dead even down the straights. Is Charles Sumner in trouble?
Oh dear. Yep, that looks like to me The outside of Dunlop Curve at the exit of the S's. Let's see how that worked out for him. Looks to me like just catching the grass here on the exit. It'll happen in a couple of corners time. This is another one of the pitfalls of Suzuka, those very thin curbs. If you get on the throttle just a little too soon, like Sumner did there, traction control kicked in and the car just whipped around to the side. Nothing he could do from that point on.
The saying comes up to life once again. The grass is like driving on ice. In that point, Charles Sumner clipped a little bit of the ice. Around to the right side indeed. So now Charles Sumner dead last on track by the time he got going. 18th, 43 seconds back of the race leaders.
And there is a move for 9th place. Eric Dubé passing Donald Olsen with Matthias Arangua in the BWT livery machine just behind them. This is a proper battle. Have a look at this. Coming into 130R, is anyone going to try a move at the Casio Triangle? It did seem that Eric Dubé was the one with the pace. Arangua looks quite confident under brakes there, taking a little bit of extra curb. It seems, though, that Dubé went a little deep there. That might harm his exit here onto the front stretch. And all that battling that these guys are doing has brought Jack Clark right back into it as well in 12th place.
And Clark just needs to get himself into the rhythm, I think, with the Reflex SimRacing logo machine, keep up with the pink machine in front. But the main thing you have to give credit to when it comes to Dubé, he's been fairly consistent. The tough thing, though, is because of how far back he started, by the time he's now gone in this clean air, to become the head of a group, he's 7 seconds back in the next position. That's a lot of time he has to try and make up on the circuit. And even though there's still about 26 minutes to work with, that's easier said than done. And this will be the true test of what his raw pace is now, if he's going to be able to get to Paul Wildridge or Sean Duhamel or anyone else in that regard.
Well, don't forget that they have the pit stops to work with as well. You mentioned a bit earlier, Justin, that 40% fuel tank restriction will give you about 25 minutes or something like that in the Ferrari. So the pit window should be opening pretty soon for drivers to fill their tank up and try to make it home. Maybe Dubé will try pitting early, get an undercut, maybe a little bit of clear air, though he has clear air at the moment, and try his best to work his way forward. But like you say, 7 seconds, it's very difficult to make up, even in a field that has a very even talent spread like this one.
Especially since, with him trying to pass all the cars, he was running as much as 2 seconds off the pace of this man, Nick McLaughlin. But the big thing, his lead is shrinking and pretty quick. It was up to about 1.8 seconds. It's down to a second and a half or so. So the pace is starting to slip a little bit, even with the time over on the stopwatch, picking up overall wise with the lighter fuel. The drivers behind him are picking up even more pace. David Cristelli in particular, 2/10 quicker last time by.
Yeah, and Cristelli's the fastest car on track at the moment on that lap. Nick McLaughlin still holds on to the fastest lap of the race overall. 1 minute 58.6 is the fastest that he's gone so far. But yeah, they are starting to gain quite a bit there on Nick McLaughlin. Bergstrom starting to fall off the back of Cristelli a little bit. He was 0.3 slower than Cristelli on the last lap, so I think this battle for the top three might get a little more spread out. I don't think Alec Bergstrom is going to be that disappointed, though, because he's finished consistently on the podium this season, as we have our first pitter, that is Spencer Semkovic, who has already had a pretty torrid night, and carrying a little bit of damage on his Ferrari to boot.
And he was already jumping into the car. It looks like he might be done for the day. He's got a meatball flag. Mandatory damage repair. His day is done.
That's such a shame there for Spencer. He has potential for top 10 results, I'd imagine, but it's just not coming together for him here at Suzuka. Hopefully he has better luck in future rounds. Well, we check out the battle for second once again through Spoon. Such a difficult corner to get right at the second apex. You got to battle the front end of the car, try and get the weight transfer as smooth as possible. We're going to a replay here of Semkovic, and it seems this is how he got his meatball flag, coming through 130R. Oh my goodness, that's a very odd place to spin, and big contact with the wall. Seems that maybe he just caught the inside curb a little, and that kicked the rear end out. Once the traction control kicked in, the rear end just kept sliding.
Yeah, as soon as that thing was starting to go around 35, 40 degrees or so towards the left, he was just a passenger and just not the greatest angle to be able to hit the wall, obviously. And our drivers just had issues in that same section, believe 13th Baron Hilton. Outside of that, though, staying pretty calm in terms of the race flow. Nobody's pulled on in to try and go for an early call on the strategy. But the 90, I think, has just had a problem. He's off circuit.
Oh dear, Owen McLaughlin from 4th place. That's a big spin into turns 1 and 2. And he did it all on his own, unfortunately. You'll check it out here. Once he comes past turn 1 and tries to straighten the wheel out to get himself ready for the turn in for turn 2, the car just wobbles a little bit right there. And around he goes, gets on that AstroTurf. It is very slippery out there on the side of the racetrack.
He looked like he carried a bit too much speed, possibly, absolutely, and because I noticed even at the start of the apex after the first part of the corner, he flicked the wheel quickly to the right, and that's trying to help stabilize it, and then in turn looped it around fully. The Eagle Vision Racing Machine will have to try and find a way to soar ahead after losing about 10 seconds or so on the racetrack.
Here's a battle for 14th between David Boucher and Mark Feil, and these two have been involved in incidents so far this race, but they'll be hoping for a clean transition of position here as they make their way into the hairpin. No moves being made there. The hairpin, you would think it's one of well, actually probably the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit. It's one of the heaviest braking zones, but the fact that it follows the Degners and that right-hand kink on the way into it means that it's a lot more difficult to pull a move off there than it seems. How are they going through Spoon then? They both hook up the apex nicely, and it's a little bit more of an aggressive exit from Mark Feil. Will this be the slipstream he needs? Already defensive from David Boucher. They don't want to go side by side into 130R, and I think both of them just realized that.
Yeah, Feil really backed off to the point where he was lifting off the gas about 500, 600 meters or so, it almost looked like, on towards that corner entry. About 5 mile an hour difference on the stop. Now it looks like, though, Feil still the quicker of the two in terms of the rhythm as the pit stop starting up in front of him.
All right, here we go then. In goes David Boucher. Looks like Spencer Semkovic, not retiring, managed to get the meatball flag done and his car mostly repaired, I would presume. Still quite damaged, though. We'll see if he gets back out of the car, Semkovic. But David Boucher, the first of our regular pitters here, just at about the 20-minute to go mark. Let's see how long this pit stop is. You don't want to take tyres in the Ferrari because it just costs you time in the pits, and the tyres will definitely last to the end. Looked like a reasonable stop there, about 13 seconds.
Not bad of a stop indeed, and I think the reason Semkovic came back into the pit lane is, one, the glass is broken on the engine cover, so that's not going to help. But two, the main thing is he had suspension damage that wasn't helping the car, you know, drive straight down the straightaway. It looked like his steering was maybe bent towards the right from a quick glance. He's now jumped out of the car fully, in fact, or potentially back into said car. Either way, he's done again for the day. After getting the required damage done, he's realized it's too much to drive without the requirement, with the required damage even fixed.
Yeah, that's a shame there for Spencer Semkovic, so confirmed retirement there, I would presume. It's gotten much closer, though, between David Cristelli and Alec Bergstrom, as you can see. And I saw that Bergstrom had a really big wobble on the exit of 130R. So these guys are really dealing with cars on the knife edge of grip in these cool conditions. You do seem to have more grip available to you when the track is cold, but when you lose grip, it's a lot more extreme than it is in hot conditions. And oh dear, it looked like Bergstrom just took a little bit too much speed through turn 2 there. It's harmed him through the S's. It's all about momentum and setting up for the exit of this whole complex as we have Matthias Arangua in the pit lane now. Let's see how long his pit stop is in conjunction with David Boucher as Baron Hilton comes into the pits behind him in the 00. Mark Feil passes them back to 13th now for Matthias Arangua. So we're looking for a stop of about 13 seconds. If Arangua can go better than that, and he does, well, that's certainly a new benchmark here.
Nice and quick, 12.4 seconds or so in the box, to the point where he's battling with Charles Sumner, who's still yet to pit. Hilton took the tires, though, and that is costly. You see right there, that's a 7-second difference because he put it up on the jacks. It looks like he tried to get some of the tires unchecked just now, but that's still going to cost him.
Massively, and he's carrying some damage to his left rear quarter to boot, so this night is not going very well for Baron Hilton. It's a mistake that we've seen at least one driver make every single round so far, accidentally leaving the tires checked on the way into the pit lane. All it does is just cause you to drop time and track position. Meanwhile, here's the battle for 6th. Sean Duhamel with Paul Wildridge chasing him down. And Wildridge and Duhamel both made up 2 positions each. And it's worked out quite nicely for them this race so far. They're keeping it nice and consistent.
Running the same ballpark average as the race leaders. Right now, currently, you should say, the 159.5s to 159.8s in terms of their average pace the past 5 laps, as Wildridge hit a little bit of the grass in the curb. A little bit of a nervous moment, to say the least, but I think at this point, around the halfway point of this race now, they're just committed to trying to maybe stick together, focus on their marks right now. That's got to be the main thought, especially since you don't want to be like the 413 who just had to tow the car.
Oh, yeah, Donald Olson having a big issue out on track at the moment. We'll see what happened to him now, thanks to the replay. Through 130R, a little bit wide on the exit, AstroTurf, and that serrated curb massively destabilizing the car, and that would have completely destroyed the front suspension.
Immediate tow as well, absolutely huge hit to say the least. No meatball flag appearing at the least for now, but I believe he's already pulled off and away from the race. He is done, seconding enough of the race. Charles Sumner also in. Meanwhile, Nick McLaughlin continues to run away. He's picked back up the pace to where he's more than 3 seconds ahead after being only 1.4 seconds ahead just a couple laps ago.
This is some good pace from Nick McLaughlin at the moment. Certainly taking advantage of Cristelli falling back into the clutches of Bergstrom. But the fastest car on track is one that I didn't quite expect. It's Kenny Duval, who's running in 4th at the moment. His fastest lap is in the mid-58s, and he is catching right up now to Bergstrom and Cristelli. This is fantastic. It's going to turn into a 3-way fight for 2nd place.
Here's the interesting thing. Remember that average of the past 5 laps referred to? The only driver quicker than the race leader is Kenny Duval right now. 158.9 flat. 158.934 for the race leader. Duval is one of the most consistent drivers on the track. That fastest lap came last time by. He's got the double toe to add to that as well. This will help him a little bit to be able to pull himself forward, to say the least. This time he just topped it.
Wow, 1 minute 58.5 now for Kenny Duval. He is looking rapid.
Still, though, the best time, roughly, is still Cristelli, to say the least. And keep in mind, you have to factor in the potential of the off-track for the official fastest lap, the clean lap.
Exactly right. It's easy to pick up off-track 1Xs at Suzuka, as we've had 3 more drivers make their way into the pit lane. Duhamel and Wildridge, the battle between them, and they're followed in by Eric Dubé, who pulls up in his box behind them, and it looks like Duhamel completes his stop, 11.4 seconds. That's the fastest stop we've seen so far. Looks like 11.9 for Paul Wildridge as well.
Pretty solid stops around that mark. It has to be expected when you only need about 14 minutes worth of fuel, right? But here's the thing. You see some of the different lines being taken by a couple of the drivers now. This has been the main thing I've noticed. This 29, when it comes to Cristelli, has really seemed to struggle to get the exact apex line down. He's tried to take the corners almost low, much lower than others, and that's cost him a little bit here and there. Speaking of things being cost on time, Owen McLaughlin had, I think, a mistake. He just lost 4 seconds just now.
Oh, he did indeed. Well, Interesting to see how that happened for him, but we'll keep our focus on this battle here, I presume, because Alec Bergstrom has dropped back a little from David Cristelli, and Kenny Duval is trying to size him up for a maneuver, potentially into the Casio triangle. He lifts early through 130R, misses the apex just slightly. That's unfortunate. Won't be able to go for a move into the final chicane. Now, if Cristelli starts getting held up here, he might want to jump into the pits now and see if he can get it done on them. Well, actually, it looks like Bergstrom's going to go in and Duval's going to follow him. Our race leader is in as well. In fact, all of the top 4 are in. It's going to be a battle of the pit stop times.
Wouldn't be surprised to see not too much differential, but the same thing can also be thought about where drivers may be willing to take a little bit of a risk, maybe take an extra half a second out of the fuel tank to see if that's going to help in terms of how much fuel is put in. But look at this. 10.5, Nick McLaughlin off and away. 10 seconds, reaching for just about everyone else. In fact, the race leader, the most aggressive out of the top 5.
And David Cristelli, you heard my little vocalization there. He's actually overshot his pit box, and he has lost second place to Alec Bergstrom. Owen McLaughlin jumps into the lane just behind. Kenny Duval, I think, accidentally left the tyres checked. He's only just come out of his box, a 26.9 second stop for him. So the face of the race has changed here at the top of the field. Sean Duhamel now comes into P4, and he's got Dave Peterson chasing him down, who's just come out of the lane.
This is getting really intriguing, to say the very least. In fact, McLaughlin extending the gap to 5.6 seconds with the stop. But the main thing I think right now is Rosada Cristelli's mistake is Bergstrom's now got some clean space to try and charge ahead by 4 seconds. Then you have the pack 4 from back. We're all grouped up together. 9 seconds back, though, the difference, because some of those drivers went as much as 2 seconds longer in their stops. Still a lot of positions up for grabs, to say the very least, but making sure you're consistent will be the critical mark of trying to score good points here at the end of this one now.
11.5 minutes to go, and consistency will be key. A little bit deep there for Sean Duhamel. Let's see if he can hook up the exit. Looks like he does. Dave Peterson has looked quite good here on his first lap out of the pits, but I think with the tyres cooling down a little bit, he's been overshooting into the corners and compromising his exits slightly. He'll have to sort that out if he wants to have a go at 4th place. Let's see what the exit's like from Spoon then. Duhamel with a little bit of a straighter exit, but Peterson is right in the slipstream, just a couple of car lengths back. It's not going to be a move into 130R, unlikely to be a move into the Casio triangle as well. But if Peterson here can hook up the exit of the chicane, then he might be able to go for a move into turn 1. They got to remember Paul Wildridge there behind them as well. Let's see then. Good exit, it seems, for both of our 4th and 5th runners here. But still, I think Peterson's a little too far back to make a move.
Well, something's happened to Kenny Duval. He's had to come in for a second stop with this. This reduces the amount of cars in the group. There goes Duval. So something happened to the 63, I think, to stop. I wonder if he didn't put enough fuel into the tank, maybe, and just wants to maybe be safe here at this point.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the entries tab. I didn't see a black flag. So definitely we can rule a pit penalty out. It can be very easy to mess up the pit entry here at Suzuka and get a speeding on entry penalty, which can cost you quite a bit. But Duval stops in his box. Well, I'll keep an eye on him, but the battle here is starting to heat up here between Duhamel and Peterson. Oh dear. Duhamel a little bit offline, I think, on the way out of the S's. That's brought Duval right into it, and slightly better exit as well. Not quite close enough for a move into the hairpin. I think, oh dear, Duhamel, he's actually taking a bit more of an F1 line there, isn't he? Running a little bit wider through the corner. It's not quite the shortest way around the turn, but it allows you to get on the throttle a little bit earlier, carry some more momentum. That's helping him stay ahead of Peterson.
I think so. That's the major thing right now, especially with a little bit of aero effect you've seen and talked about a little bit earlier in this race. But the tough thing with Peterson, too, with that aero wake that he's doing with a little bit tighter on corner exit, taking a little bit more curbing compared to the cleaner aired car in Domo. And that's going to be the tough thing, I think, for Peterson to claw his way ahead here, is trying to find a way to counteract that. And it's going to come down to not just getting the straight line speed, but nailing one of the corners perfectly despite the issues to be able to actually have a chance to pounce. There's a mistake.
There we go. A little bit of a mistake from Sean Duhamel. And running a bit wide over the curbs on the exit of the Casio Triangle. So now Peterson is right in it here. Will he be able to pull alongside on the way into turn one? Yes, he will. This is a place where you see some spectacular overtakes. And there we go. He is by now into 4th place. Duhamel saw him coming, but oh, he's gone deep. Peterson's gone deep. Duhamel, though, not able to take advantage. All of that, though, has brought Paul Wildridge right into the fray.
Wildridge not able to take advantage quite yet, but he's within pouncing distance. Duhamel really struggling, I think, to be able to actually arc it through the apexes. Took a little bit of a wider arc once again. He's really been riding the curbs too, and that's the tough thing for him. He just seems to be struggling to get the exact marks down compared to the cars around him, and that's really cost him.
Yeah, Dave Peterson says, I am by. Now get me the heck away from this battle. He's got some good space now over Sean Duhamel, but Paul Wildridge, let's see what he can do here. Trying to overtake the 617. Certainly turned up the pace here with these guys battling, and Duhamel is taking the shorter line through the hairpin this time around, trying to stay ahead. How much is it going to work for him, though?
That's going to be the tough thing, because Wildridge, even though he's been able to close up this gap a couple times already, corners like this one have been the major trouble spot. He almost sends it so deep that he ends up missing the entire entry point and exit point, and that's what's been keeping him behind the 617. He's done it out of the Casio Triangle the past 3 laps. He did it again there through Spoon.
Yeah, what you got to do in that situation is just brake a little earlier, make sure that you hook up the apex, and probably compromise your line through this corner and take a bit of a faster exit here. Didn't do that, ran over the curb quite a bit on the exit, and that's lost him pace. Well, no change for position there, but there is a change for position here, and a change into the grass for Matthias Arangua. Mark Feil making contact with him on the way into 130R, and oh dear, looks like Arangua hit the wall there, and the redress happens there. Mark Feil letting him back by, but I think in a very literal sense, the damage has been done.
Somebody had to give here, and that's the tough thing. I think Feil expected someone to back off by this point around here, because he's just taking it on the right rear. Then he just turns it up and thinks he's going to lift it by that point. And then chaos.
Yep, chaos indeed. That's big right-hand side damage for Matthias Arangua. Looks like he stayed out on the racetrack. So hopefully he'll be able to get to the end and have a car that he's happy with. And it looks like Feil has backed off a fair bit now just to reassess. But that's a real shame to see. Of course, making assumptions on the way into 130R is never a good idea. Here's the battle once again for 4th place. Dave Peterson has lost a bit of time to Sean Duhamel and Paul Wildridge.
Yeah, that's the intriguing thing when it comes to this, is he's struggling a little bit to maybe break away fully. He was quicker last time by nearly a full second, but that's the tough thing, right? You get yourself to the point where you get a lot of confidence, and then you start building up little tiny mistakes that end up costing you that whole buffer that built up your performance the previous lap. And I think that's what happened with Peterson a bit, as well as the draft. And now it's back towards the fight once again. Keep in mind, Wildridge throughout all this, he's nearly lost the draft with how the struggles continue on corner exit in the coming out of the hard braking zones like here.
Yeah, you see he's just taking a very tight entry into the second phase of the Casio Triangle, and that costs him just a little bit when they get into the traction zone here onto the front straight. Slight bit of a look there for Sean Duhamel. This is the closest battle on track outside of Arangua and Feil, and they're going to run line astern on the way into turns 1 and 2. Let's see who nails the S's here. Sometimes a less aggressive entry, in fact most of the time a less aggressive entry is what works out for you here, just as long as you keep the car nice and stable. Suzuka's a track where you need a car that's as neutral as possible. You don't want a car that understeers, especially not here.
Exactly, and right now it looks like in particular Wildridge has been pushing around a lot when it comes to his grip levels around the circuit, or rather how he's driving this car is causing it to push, because that's the major thing when you have a setup such as this. When you consider things, how you drive the car in particular really impacts how the tire wear may factor in, as well as how the characteristics are for the car. Some drivers on the same setup may say I'm really loose. Others may be plowing tight if they're burning up the front tires.
Yes, of course. Remember, the drivers are racing a fixed setup here, and the only thing they can really change is the brake bias setting. Trying to run the brake bias a little further to the rear can actually help you get that rotation through the S's. At the same time, though, it means that you're more likely to spin. Meanwhile, 2 laps to go now for our race leader, Nick McLaughlin, who now leads by 8.5 seconds. And it's been an excellent performance here from Nick. He's led all the way. Fantastic performance from the Cloudvalve driver. He's on his lonesome in terms of teams here. His teammate Eric Luke has not shown up for this round, but still this is going to be a good points haul here for the Cloudvalve team, and he can be proud of this performance. He got pole position and he's led pretty much every lap so far.
He was in control of the field the second the green flag started waving from Barney. That's how much he's been dialed in with how he already broke the draft within the first sector. He's just been in control of his own pace, kept it really cool and conservative, trying to save it looked like when thinking and considering things now. Even let them reel in a little bit, then let the afterburners flow out. Put it to pedal to the metal to try and build up as much of a buffer as he could on the track, to the point where he's running up to half a second quicker than some of the other battles on circuit. Nick McLaughlin has dominated here today, to say the very least. Half a track ahead, for example, ready for the battle for 10th.
Indeed, that was the change for position. Take 2 at the same location for Mark File and Matthias Arangua, and this time it worked out cleanly. So Mark File now into the top 10. But poor Matthias Arangua, he'll still be wounded, walking wounded from that earlier incident. You see that the rear wing is slightly off on the right-hand side, and that's going to affect the aero stability of the car through this first sector. Big shame there for him, but still, he's gained 4 positions. 3 of those, I believe, due to the retirements of Charles Sumner, Donald Olson, and Spencer Semkovich. In fact, yeah, Sumner's pulled in and retired something like 7 laps ago. Unfortunately, we missed out on that, but there's been a big issue there for the 98. This battle, though, is starting to heat up once again between Duhamel and Wildridge. Dave Peterson will want to get away from this as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think right now at this point, if you're Peterson, try and run away. Hope they battle behind you. Get yourself a bit of a buffer, because if they start fighting, especially now with us inside the final minute, it's a good spot. The problem is, Peterson really missed the corner. Might have been watching more of the mirrors.
Yep, getting a little distracted with the show that's being put on here by Duhamel and Wildridge, but Wildridge is right on the bumper of Duhamel now. He pulls out in the slipstream. There's barely any room between them down the front stretch. Yeah, you could put a piece of paper over these guys as he goes for the move, and there's contact and a synchronized spin. Sean Duhamel and Paul Wildridge come together, and that's pretty much guaranteed 4th for Dave Peterson.
Looked like Duhamel tried to squeeze a little bit into the middle of the first part of the apex. Leads to the contact, spins them both around, and just like that, both of them out of contention to battle for 4th position. You'll see coming out from the grandstands towards the edge of the tire. Nice side by side, a little deeper on the brakes, but right there's the squeeze. And as you can see, sends them both off into the runoff space.
Well, that's a huge shame. I think at that point, Sean Duhamel might have run just a little bit wider, conceded the position. He would still have had opportunities later on the lap to get back by, but only a few corners to go for our race leader, Nick McLaughlin. As you said, Justin, it's been... Whoa, hang on, what are you doing, mate? Jeez. What? Okay, he decided to take the west layout pit lane for some reason. Might as well have a bit of fun when you're out there on your own with no threat to your position. Goodness gracious me. All right. Let's calm things down then for Nick McLaughlin. It's another well-earned victory for Nick here in the Cloudvalve Ferrari. A very satisfying victory for him. He could afford to have a bit of fun there on the last lap.
Well, it was a decision. He still dominated the race by 9 seconds, but still, I'll say this, he ends up making one little slip up there, and we're talking about a different winner. Either way, Nick McLaughlin dominated this one, as we see some of the battles faring out.
Yeah, Paul Wildridge, after his spin, managing. Oh, actually, this is Owen McLaughlin and Paul Wildridge here, going to be crossing the line almost side by side. It's a form finish, but probably not the one they expected. Meanwhile, there's still battling going on. Mark File, he's making up time here on Jack Clark. Not going to be able to get the move done into the Casio triangle, though. Let's see if he can get a better exit and try and snatch away 9th place at the line. He sees it. He sees it. He goes for the title line. They're going to cross side by side, but it seems that Jack Clark just beating him out there by I don't know how much. That's a ridiculous gap between them. Kenny Duval, one of the heartbreak stories of the race, had to visit the pits twice, but he'll still get an 11th place finish out of this one.
Yeah, that was a very aggressive battle, to say the least, for some of the drivers. Duval in particular is going to be the interesting thing of what happened for him to have to come in for another 30 seconds. Tough break for Duval, who was likely in the conversation for the top 5 grouping, too, with how busy things got for said fight.
Yeah, could certainly have been a potential podium there for Kenny Duval if it were not for his issues. Well, we have one car left across the line, and it's David Hebert, so we'll go through our results here. By 9 seconds, Nick McLaughlin takes it over Alec Bergstrom. David Cristelli completes the podium. Dave Peterson will finish in 4th place. He'll be happy with that one. Sean Duhamel completes the top 5. Owen McLaughlin recovers to 6th place after some unfortunate runnings earlier on. He's followed by his teammate Paul Wildridge. Eric Dube finishes in 8th, then it's Jack Clark and Mark File who round out the top 10.
11th spot went to Kenny Duval with David Boucher in 12th. Then it's Mateus Nagua finishing 13th. Baron Hilton 14th. David Hebert in 15th. The DNFs, Sumner, Olsen, Sinkowicz. 18 drivers took the green flag today, Reese. And boy, oh boy, did it challenge the drivers.
Yeah, only 15 finished. Well, that is the race run, won and done at Suzuka, and we'll wait and see if our top 3 jump in for an interview, because I'm really interested to hear what the race was like from Alec Bergstrom's perspective in 2nd place. He certainly got himself involved in some very spicy battles. And another 2nd place finish for him. I get the feeling he might still hold on to the championship lead out of this, because at the very least it's going to be very close. Bergstrom still has yet to win a race in 2022 Season 2, but the consistency, the constant podiums he's been getting, that is what has ensured it for him. He's almost doing a KK Rosberg in 1982. Looks like our race winner is in the interview booth. We will have a chat to Nick McLaughlin very shortly. We'll see how the race was from his perspective. Nick joins us now. G'day, Nick, and congratulations on a dominant victory. Looks like you decided to have a bit of fun on the last lap there.
Ah, the Mario Kart speed boost zone. Yeah, you caught that.
We did indeed. I guess with the dominance that you had, the fact that you were able to pull away from everybody, it really sort of came together at the start of the race when you got that initial jump.
Yeah. I wasn't sure when the green flag was going, so it kind of felt a little bit early on my part after the fact, but Cristelli was all over me for the probably first 10 laps or so. I couldn't shake him over a second and a half, I don't think. And Bergstrom lives on these podiums, man. He's going to be a hard cookie to overtake in the championship, I think.
Yeah, certainly agree with you there, Nick. Well, either way, it's still another win for you, and it's going to be a great points haul. What do you think you'll be able to do in the second half of the season? Because we've still got quite a bit to go, and it seems that you're the fastest driver out there.
I know, I can't remember what the next one is, but the next couple I recall are pretty good circuits that I enjoy. So hopefully I can continue at least in the front. If I can pull more wins, that'd be obviously awesome. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, we are going to the Red Bull Ring next round for the Ferraris, so we'll see how that goes for you. Before we let you go, Nick, anyone you'd like to thank from your garage?
Yeah, we'll give Cloud Valve Racing a shout. Unfortunately, my teammate couldn't make it, and this is one of his favorites, so he's pretty bummed. And a shout to Alec and David on the podiums, great race. And then the wife and kid watching along.
Hello to the family of Nick McLaughlin. Thanks very much for joining us, Nick. It's going to be a great second half of the season here. Well, Justin, an excellent race in the Ferraris, but we're going to move on to Formula 3 very shortly. We'll step aside briefly here on the Global Sim Racing channel. You're watching Thursday nights at the Precision Racing League.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel Thursday nights at the Precision Racing League. We move into Formula 3 action now, not in Australia, as I mistakenly said at the start of the broadcast. We're racing at the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari in Imola in Italy, a classic open-wheel circuit. Let's see what the track guide has to say.
Welcome to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, but most race fans know this place as simply Imola. This circuit in the northern part of Italy has seen some of the highest highs and lowest lows in motorsports history. The various tragedies that have marred the track left no choice but to alter it in the name of safety. While it originally featured mostly fast, sweeping corners, its modern 3-mile or 5-kilometer version is punctuated by tricky chicanes and incredibly technical turns. iRacing includes the Grand Prix layout and a moto version, which adds one more chicane to the front stretch. Tamburello is perhaps the most notorious of the corners for claiming the life of multi-time world champion Ayrton Senna when it was still a single breathtaking turn. Now the Triple Apexer not only offers potential passing opportunities, but catches out drivers quite frequently. While heavy braking zones are everywhere, because few places allow the cars to get up to speed, overtaking is generally seen as an exercise in frustration. As if to almost counteract this quality, the track itself is situated in a gorgeous public park and sends the drivers through the beautifully calming Italian countryside. It also includes a fair bit of elevation change, in which the track is split between the higher up back half and the lower first portion. It's no wonder that this place still proves popular with drivers and fans in spite of its difficulties in history. The Tifosi keep returning each and every time the sound of engines roar among the trees, and who can blame them?
Well, Justin, this is a racetrack that, as the track guide mentioned, is unfortunately marred by tragedy. It's a very different circuit from the one that was built, but still a very fast and flowing track with difficult curbs and a few good overtaking opportunities.
Absolutely. This is the type of racetrack where speed, and more speed is going to be one of the major talking points, especially down the Firenze Bassa for the front straightaway up to Tamburello. That's going to be one of the trickiest parts of today. Tokes has been a track where in the past attrition's been pretty big for those who make mistakes, especially coming out of Villeneuve. In particular, though, the run through Riviazza is going to be so critical because if you end up making a mistake, you're likely up for grabs to be attacked. You end up hitting that well, you still have the chance to have someone try and line things up by the end of the straightaway slipstream-wise. This 3.05 mile, 4.91 kilometer circuit could be very tricky, especially when it comes to today's laps. 24 laps, 40 total minutes up on the clock for today's race.
And a 50% fuel tank restriction. This is going to be an incredibly interesting race and certainly an interesting championship in the Formula 3 series. Have a look at that. Michael Overbay is the championship leader with Sebastian Coffret only 1 point behind him. This is going to be an incredibly tight battle. Overbay has been one of the most consistent drivers over the course of the season. Coffret, one of the fastest, but making mistakes from time to time. It's also very close between Justin Negrete, Alex Fournier, and Michael Diaz in the pro standings.
And keep in mind, there's also the AM standings, which have always been intriguing, especially the past couple of years. Richard Swindells, though, is this season's leader currently. Over throttled Thursdays, Greg Doucette. Then you have Neil Alexander, also in the mix, 6 points behind. Jonathan Alomar, also running well, 7 points behind in fourth. And then you have Andreas Echeverria inside the top 5, 10 points separating the top drivers in the AM standings so far.
In terms of the teams, it's also ridiculously close. Have a look at how close the top 3 are. Atomic Racing getting first and third so far, and there's only 3 points separating the top 3, with TQ Engineering just 1 point behind. Throttle Thursday and SDS Racing Team Blue also close, only 3 points there. Going to be quite interesting to see where everyone stacks up here at another circuit where attrition may be defining the race. Round 5 of 10, we're racing for 24 laps tonight, and the setups are open. You can change anything and everything you like, but same rules in terms of incidents as the Ferraris. 13 incidents gets you a drive-through, 17 gets you a DQ, and you get a bonus point for pole, the fastest lap, and minimal incidents. But I get the feeling that a lot of drivers are going to be well over 3 incidents with how easy it is to get off tracks here, Justin.
Yeah, it's the type of racetrack where a lot of drivers, I wouldn't be surprised, to overflow off the edges of the curbs. And keep in mind, this is one of these special off-road track rule circuits where if half the car it goes over the boundaries of said parts of the circuit, that's going to be critical in terms of the off-track. However, there are exceptions in multiple corners here now, where if 4 tires are off the edge of the following sections: turn 4 along the edge of the red line curbing, turn 6, turn 7, turn 8, turn 10, turn 12, and turn 15, that's where drivers are encouraged to rejoin the track before the end of the curbing in those said areas to avoid the off-track.
Indeed. Alex Fournier demonstrating one of those there at the exit of the Variante Alta, which translates to high chicane. It's the highest point on the circuit, and then down to Rivazza. Let's see what he can do here. Goes all the way over the curbing on the exit there, but you don't want to take too much of that exit curb out of the final corner because the dark green AstroTurf is incredibly slippery. I find that the general rule you follow around Imola as Fournier completes an outlap and wants to try to improve on his pole position, general rule I find is if it's light green, no problem, you can use it. If it's dark green, stay off it, and definitely stay off those speed bumps in the middle of the chicanes. Overbay here is in the middle of a 3-car pack trying to sort themselves out, and Overbay, he's not quite where he'd want to be. 8th place. He has been competing in and around the top 5, but it seems he's had a bit of trouble getting a lap together here.
Yeah, that's going to be huge, I think, in regards to the championship side of things. Overbay needs to be able to pick up a little bit. The difference is compared to the Ferrari side of the card, it is the open qualifying, so you're able to pick up slipstream, say off a best friend or a teammate, see if there's an improvement. The tough thing is Overbay did not improve there. He was actually slower with the car in front. That's going to be tricky, I think, for Overbay, is trying to get the slipstream down the straights, but also the difficult balance of the amount of aero wash these cars can feel in the turns. Yes, there's the downforce, but the closer you get, the tougher it is to fall on behind in the braking zone.
Indeed, especially through those incredibly quick chicanes to start off the lap. James Carter maybe a little bit crossed up through the double left of Rivazza. Currently a 1:38 is the fastest time that he has got in the number 70 down in 29th, the fourth last car in the running, and unfortunately not improving there. It looks like he's actually, he might be pulling over to let someone by there. Yes, he is. So that's not going to be an improvement there for him, and straight off into the gravel trap at Tamburello, almost following the old route of the corner there. So we'll pick up Byron Daly then. In the pro class, 11th place as things stand. Now, what does he need to do to gain 2 positions? All he needs to do is find a 10th. He's got Laurent Christophe de Ruel and Julio Palacio in front of him, and they're all on 1:36.8.
Byron Daly, keep in mind, one of the quick drivers when it comes to the series and its history over the past year plus. Former eNASCAR competitor at the pro levels in particular. Also a ton of experience in the real world paddock, as well as in stock car racing on the box in some cases, as there he goes.
Bam! That is what the speed bumps can do. At the apexes of a lot of these corners, these Formula 3 cars have very stiff suspension, so you don't want to hit them too much. Certainly that's going to hurt the spine, if not the ego. Fernando Rodriguez, meanwhile, in 16th. Let's see what he can do in the number 12. Currently on a 1:37.5, and if he gains a 10th on this lap, he'll be able to nab 15th from Takeshi Kita. Let's see what he can do then. It looked like a reasonable line through there and used all of the curb on the exit of Rivazza. I don't think that was an off track. We'll have to wait and see if that time ends up being valid. Can he beat that 37? Yes, he can. 37 flat. Have a look at that. But unfortunately, it hasn't counted. Yep, okay, so we did get an off track at the final turn.
Yes, indeed, and he's really loose already to start off this respective lap. And the tough thing when it comes to the compound in particular is trying to be able to qualify within that respective tires window. Hence why some drivers going out maybe a couple laps at the most, then they come back on in, be able to go back to the pit lane, get another fresh set of boots onto the car, and then go from there to be able to maximize the amount of time they can be able to record in qualifying.
Takeshi Kita, he's only a 10th or so ahead of Fernando Rodriguez. He'll try and extend that gap. Doesn't have the benefit of the slipstream down this front straight. Can he improve on a 37.4? No, he can't, unfortunately. Misses out by a 10th and 400ths. Well, let's see what Mr. Sneaky can do in the race. We've seen him really move up the order. Consistency is key in any kind of motorsport, but certainly in Formula 3 as well, as Michael Diaz improves. Doesn't look like that was an improvement in position, though. Sebastian Coffre still 5 thousandths ahead of him.
You see the onboard now with the O2 machine, middle of the pack currently, and the tough thing for him right now is that's in the middle of the Hornet's Nest, expected to the first hard braking zone for the race today. I think he definitely wants to try and pick things up, especially with the majority of the front runners in the 136s. Can he bump it up? A 137.268 does not count either. Another off track.
That's a shame there for John Almanar. He took the M-Class victory earlier in the season at Bathurst, and he certainly got potential for another win here today, but he won't be happy with that. Alex Fournier will be happy with improving on his current time. He's now got the fastest lap in the qualifying session as we have a minute to go, and it looks like Fournier is not going to be returning to the racing surface there. Doesn't really need to, unless the likes of Michael Coffre can put in a massive improvement of about 2 tenths. That's not going to happen that time, though, for Michael. A spin on the exit of Variante Alta, and that's damage to the car. He will not make it around again. So that's another of Alex Fournier's competitors down and out. What about Sebastian Coffret? One of the fastest drivers on one-lap pace so far this season, but has fallen off a little bit sometimes in terms of race consistency. He'll be able to, no, might be able to complete this lap. We'll have to wait and see on the exit of the fantastic sweep to the left coming down into this Aqua Minerale section. He's run a bit over the curb there. I think that's going to be an off track.
That's going to cost him, I think, and keep in mind when it comes to the open qualifying, there is a little tiny bit of a runoff time, and some drivers may have that opportunity to try and push if they're in progress. Most drivers, though, who are in that window have had massive off tracks throughout the sequence, so I don't know if we're going to see too many changes from here. Maybe Rodriguez, he's the most likely to try and improve a time. Most other drivers, though, who are still on circuit had off tracks. Rodriguez looking to try and set it.
1:37.5 is the time to beat down in 17th place. Can he beat Takeshi Kita? Can he even beat Greg Doucet? 37.3. No, it didn't count again. That's a huge shame there. Coffret coming up to the start of a lap. But I don't know if he actually crossed the line in time there.
His lap is over, and it looks like the 99, who's amongst the last of them, may just pick up an error off track, possibly with the tire drift. We'll see if it does count. He would be the last driver, I believe, outside of maybe Steven Ritters, who can set a time left on the circuit.
Let's see if this counts then for Michael Blaze. Well, it's going to be slower to start with, and it didn't end up counting. So now it's just down to Steven Ritters here. 1:37.5, and it's very close there. If he can gain a 10th, he will gain, it seems, 3 positions there with Rodriguez, Almanar, and Roberto Coffret up ahead of him. And he's going to stick as tight as he can to the inside here, shorten the run to the line. What can Steven Ritters do? 1:36.37. He does gain a 10th, and it does count. He moves up into 15th place. That is 5 places gained right in the dying moments of the qualifying session. Good performance there.
Absolutely huge, I think, for Steven Ritters to be able to get himself ahead of a lot of the drivers, especially a majority of the AM qualifiers. He'll still have to battle potentially off the jump with the AM pole sitter in terms of the class, but outside of that, Ritters in a decent spot in the heart of the field. That's going to be the tricky part, the heart of the field.
Indeed, that's where most of the incidents have happened so far in 2022 Season 2. Well, it is the end of the qualifying session, and we can go through our 32-car grid for the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series at Imola. Alex Fournier gets pole position, 2 tenths ahead of Michael Coffret, and it's Moises Caraballo and Max Chablis on the second row. Juan Coffret starts 5th alongside Sebastian Coffret. It's Michael Diaz and championship leader Michael Overbay who share the 4th row. Laurent Christophe Delaruelle and Julio Palacio round out the top 10.
Byron Daly starts 11th today after spinning and qualifying. Then it's Justin Negrete in 12th. Robert Ridgway, the former AM competitor for the championship title, in 13th. He'll start alongside the AM pole sitter, Yo Yin Lian. Then it's Steven Ritters in 15th with Greg Doucet in 16th. Takeshi Kita 17th. Then it's Rodriguez starting alongside in 18th. John Alomar and Roberto Coffret, the top 20.
Michael Gunderson is going to start out of 21st place with Andres Echevarria in 22nd. It's Michael Blaze and Brad Miller on row 12. Manuel Vargas and Neil Alexander share the lucky 13th row. It's Gabriel Moreau and championship leader in the AM class, Richard Swindels, who starts in 28th place. 29th and 30th is going to be Nick Karangis and James Carter. Our final 2 cars on the grid, Colin Diaz and Matt Dinsmore. Wow, this is a huge grid of cars here at Imola, and it's going to be a standing start in the Formula 3s. It's a reasonable run to turn 1, but it's not very tight, Justin. There's going to be, I think, at least a few cars having to take to the gravel.
And for a lot of those drivers, you don't want to end up losing tons of time. If you're already trying to test out how their engine's going to rev for when they launch off of the standing start, because there were many times in the series' history, too, we've seen drivers struggle to get out of the blocks, and in turn, that could potentially cause a stack-up as well.
Well, only 30 seconds left on the timer, and it's going to be all about this initial application off the start. Can you get the launch right? Can you minimize wheel spin? It's going to be difficult for the drivers starting in the midfield. You see they're starting around the kink there to bring you onto the start-finish stretch. Going to have to negotiate at least one turn before they get to Tamburello as well. Timer hits 0 and the revs rise. Let's see who gets the launch here. We are racing, and it's a pretty good start there from Alex Fournier. Excellent stuff. It wasn't the best of starts from Juan Cofre, though. He's going to be passed by Michael Diaz in the 14 on the way into the first turn. Who's going to make it out here? They almost go 3 wide. Couple of cars having to almost take to the grass. Lots of room being given in the midfield, though. There was a mistake for Sebastian Cofre. He has let Max Shabley by, and he's going to start dropping positions on the way, but it is on for the lead. Michael Cofre right behind Alex Fournier as they come up to the first real hard braking zone of the lap here at Tosa. And it looks like Moises Caraballo has certainly gotten a good run there, as there's massive 2-wide action here in the midfield.
No contact so far, no damage picked up, it looks like so far. But the balance is going to be intriguing how that front grouping fares out. Fournier, a former series champion. Cofre keeping the pressure up. Right on behind, looking to back it up a little bit. Not in the major passing zones quite yet. It's all about setting things up to the front straightaway, Reese, if you want to be able to contend here, to be able to make a swap here with 23 laps to work with to go.
And it's a very narrow circuit here at Imola. Got to be careful not to run too far over the curbs at Variante Alta as well. It seems that Fournier got a slightly better run through there than Michael Cofre did. It's a similar story to what we've seen in a couple of past rounds. The top 3 breaking away from the rest of the field already here at the end of lap 1. So the running order you see down the side of your screen looks like there's been some positions gained further into the midfield. 2 positions gained for Diaz, 1 position gained for De Ruel. Justin Negrete gains 2 positions. Biggest mover so far is Takeshi Kita. He's already up 3 and in 14th place.
Michael Diaz in particular is the intriguing part. You see the side-by-side of the backdrop. Just had to give up one of the spots he picked up to Sebastian Cofre again. Cofre, he again makes the mistake.
Oh, no. That's huge there. Sebastian Cofre. I mean, he's certainly got the pace to win races here, but just making those mistakes, he's missing out on these results, and the midfield has to take avoiding action there as he re-enters the circuit. Cofre's now all the way down in 23rd place. We'll get another view here of what happened. Cofre trying to go round the outside of Tamburello. Does he catch the grass on entry? No, that's fine there, but did he take a little bit too much of the curb on the exit? He certainly did. Tires spun up and that was it.
Yeah, it looked like some of the suspension started to wobble around too with the shocks along the left side with the curbing. A couple of our drivers towards the back just got involved in a bit of contact. Outside of that, nice and clean for everybody else. Tough break for Sebastian Cofre, though, towards the very back of the field now as a result.
That's a big shame. Here is Laurent Christophe de Ruel getting chased by Michael Overbay. This is a proper train of cars for 8th on back, and oh, there's another development. That's Juan Cofre that had a bit of a half spin on the exit of Variante Alta, and this is going to open up a few opportunities. Side by side here. Oh, take it easy. Michael Overbay makes the position, and Justin Negrete just behind fails to defend the position from Byron Daly, who's already making up some good positions there. He is now up 2 as they get onto the front stretch for the second time.
Up to 9th position, Daly looking to gain a little bit more, possibly with how things are faring out aggression-wise behind him. Fournier, the fastest lap so far, clean lap should say, in the 137.5s. 3 wide behind them. This has to give for somebody. It looks like it, in that case, Kita in particular had to give.
Now, Kita, he was able to filter back ahead of Justin Negrete, so he still holds on to a reasonable position there. Up 5 places now. He is just making up bulk positions, is Takeshi, and certainly doing it as sneakily as ever. Single file for the most part now as we make our way through. Fournier leads by 9/10 of a second. It's actually starting to close up for 3rd. Meanwhile, we'll keep an eye here on this 7th place fight. Overbay now having to defend from the recovering Juan Cofre. Let's see what he can do. Cofre's down 3 positions, losing quite a few places in those opening 2 laps, but there's going to be no opportunity to pass here. And if anything, Cofre under threat from Byron Daly, who's on an absolute charge.
I think Daly knows he's quicker, but he also knows, based on his experience, that he needs to be patient where he elects to try and make the pass. He's been better on corner exits. He just needs to be able to keep those marks continuing forward for him to truly get the pass done. Wouldn't be surprised if he tries to send it up this time by down the front stretch, as long as he plants the power down right here to try and close up a little bit.
Let's see what the draft is like then for Byron Daly. Almost a little bit of weaving going on, but not quite. Everyone's just trying to stick to the right-hand side as well as they can. Michael Diaz sets the fastest lap there. 1:37.1 to start things off, and Daly now not quite on the back of Kofre, but Kofre almost got over Bay. Meanwhile, here's Michael Diaz making the move on Max Chablis into the Villeneuve chicane. Fantastic stuff there. Incredible move. And that's one of the places where it's so hard to make a passing maneuver. Very interesting, and good respect shown between the drivers, I'd say.
I think so in particular, especially knowing Michael Diaz just set the purple lap for the race so far in the Precision Racing Esports car, and then not too shabby to be able to find the circuit right again.
Yep, a little bit slippery out there on the exit of Piratella, but still managed to keep up the pace, did Max Chablis. Here's the conditions that they're racing in. It's a decidedly warmer track than it was for the Ferraris at Suzuka, 29 degrees, so should be some nice predictable grip levels there. I've just seen Sebastian Kofre tumble down the order once again. It looks like he's actually pulled into the pits. There's been another mistake out there for Sebastian, running second in the championship. That's a big shame for him. We'll check out what happened to him here.
He was battling for 18th at the time. It was just a few moments ago. Had the run, and then all of a sudden, it's like something just seems to break a little bit along the edge of the curb, and he ends up finishing this complex pretty well. Trying to make the pass initially. Stays about a car length or so back. Then he ends up taking a little bit too much of the curb and clips a bit of the grass that sends him off the circuit. And it almost seems like he said, okay, enough's enough. Especially with that little bounce there, breaking something it looked like.
Yeah, it's pure frustration there for Sebastian Kofre. Well, we check back in with our top three, Alex Fournier, Michael Kofre, and Moises Caraballo. This is a pretty good fight here. It's still staying reasonably close on lap 5. Remember, these guys still have to work out pit stops, and that's a place where mistakes can be made and big positions, big time, can be gained or lost.
Yeah, it just looks like at the moment, just the thought maybe at this moment, just save a little bit, try and think big picture, be in position to pounce by the time the pit stop window, if it gets towards that mark, starts to get to a major factor. Remember, 50% the fuel limit for these drivers here today in these machines. And right now, they're just trying to match each other, staying within about a half a tenth or so in terms of their pace.
Side by side here for Stephen Ridders with his teammate Takeshi Kita, and they don't sort themselves out too cleanly there. That's a big crash there. Oh goodness, what on earth has gone on? One of the cars involved Ho Yin Lung.
That was the top driver of the AM class who just got involved there, battling in the top 10 up the road. That was with Julio Placio for that 10th position. And this is not a smart place to dive it into the corner, even with the weaving, where he initially let the position back, then he sends it back in again with the difference of the braking line. I'm not quite sure what just happened there.
Yeah, me either. That was really bizarre. We'll check it out from Lung's perspective here. So, did he get a slowdown, I wonder, on the exit here of Acqua Minerale? This is a place where you can pick up a slowdown. And, no, it seems reasonable there, but he didn't quite get the exit, so he decides to let Palacio by on the way in. But then, immediately when they get to the braking zone, I think he might have just lost concentration there.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he lost maybe the side of the car to the outside for a split second. But that is absolutely huge for the AM side. The top driver of the AM class, running order-wise, out of the race. That puts Greg Doucette into that spot, 14th overall.
Yeah, maybe lost his brake marker, did Ho Yin Lung. So, yeah, as you say, Greg Doucette takes over the AM class lead. Running second in AM is John Almanar, 2 positions overall behind him. Meanwhile, Doucette, he's going to gain another position here with Takeshi Kita losing a place on the exit of Acqua Minerale. Something went very wrong there.
Yeah, a lot of tough attrition points and starting to make mistakes, it seems, some of the drivers. Here's a look at the replay that you're referring to in this trouble. This is one of the more trickier spots. You see already one car letting by several spots, and he just misses the brake.
Yeah, just ran over the grass there on the way through the right-hand kink, and once you've got your left side tyres on the grass, there is nothing you can do. You're just going to go sailing on.
Cofre into the wall. Second spot, just clipped the grass too.
Oh, no. That's huge. Cofre was running in second place at the time, and was there contact involved in this?
No.
No, it did it on his own.
Yeah, and this is the same spot that the other Cofres have struggled in, where they've taken almost too much speed on the second part of the apex, and this time takes nearly half a tire width on the left side tires right here, cuts them to the right, big kaboom.
Oh, goodness, that's the rear end of the car completely destroyed. No way you'd be able to get that thing back out. Ah, that's such a shame. Well, I suppose Moises Caraballo will be happy. He's managed to get a freebie there for second place, but have a look at this fight here. Overbay, championship leader, and might stay championship leader if there is problems for Alex Fournier out front. He is chasing down Laurent Christophe Deruel, and oh, he has a little bit of a look on the way into Variante Alta, compromises his line on the entry though. That could give an opportunity to Juan Cofre on the way into Rivazza. Let's see what they can do then. Deruel skipping away thanks to that slight compromising of the line from Michael Overbay, but no move to be made just yet. Might be a slipstream into Tamburello.
Especially with how Juan Cofre is trying to late break it in. Actually made it stick pretty well. He's in a great spot to pounce. Cofre has the slipstream. There he goes. And Byron Daly might get the double toe.
Daly's getting a heck of a show here with two cars side by side ahead of him, and look at how strong the slipstream is. He's going to get Overbay on the way into Tamburello, and he almost decides to go for the move on Juan Cofre, but gets it done on Overbay. Up another position there for Daly, up 5 places. Fantastic stuff. But the biggest mover in the field is Gabriel Moreau. It looks like there's been another Cofre problem. It looks like Roberto Cofre has had an incident out on track now.
And this one, I'm not quite sure with Roberto Cofre. He was running fine. I think it was just the final run through. Riazza just taking a little bit too much power, spun it on the exit as he hit the right side tires along the curb and slams hard into the tire barrier. He had just completed a pass and tried to hold off, rather, a lot of these cars behind, but he just had that major mistake again that we've been seeing. Corner exit seems to be the Cofre curse, it seems, today.
The Cofre curse of Imola. Well, here he goes through the final corner, and oh man, yeah, the car was already unstable before he hit the curb, and the right side of the car destroyed. The nose cone got ripped off as well. Ah, that's a big shame. There's not going to be many points for the Cofres here today. It looks like it's just Juan in 6th place that is left in the running here.
Well,
chasing down Deruel.
I was about to say, that sounds like a jinx. Hit a bit of the curb in there too.
Oh boy, keep it together, guys. You're flying the flag, mate. Let's go. Good slipstream for Mr. Cofre on Deruel, but don't think he's going to be quite close enough to get a move done into Tamburello. Maybe he will. Goes a bit defensive on the way in, does Deruel. No chance there for Cofre to get by. Now Tamburello. Excellent view here to see just how hard the drivers are working. Oh, here we go. It's going to be a move into the Villeneuve chicane. This is going to be tight. Side by side on the way in. Deruel tries to defend, and Cofre goes round the outside. Fantastic move there for 5th place.
Was really nervous, I will be honest, when I seen him try and make that work towards the outside with the chance of drivers making contact, but was just able to cradle the very edge of that balance on the curb. Now it's the matter of, can he run away? Can he show he's quicker in the technical corners to be able to buffer his... Let's take a look at the GSRC replay machine, meanwhile.
Yeah, let's see what this looked like from the chopper. Making a move on the inside of the left-hander at Villeneuve. It does put you on the outside, but there would have been a little more momentum on the outside for Juan Cofre. Deruel had to slow down a bit there just to make the corner with a car on his outside. And when you put another driver into a position like that, all you got to do is nail the throttle, and that is the position taken. So, The battle continues as they make their way down to Rivazza. Now Byron Daly is sizing up Deruel for a move.
I'm not surprised to see Daly moving ahead. He hasn't been the greatest of qualifiers I've seen throughout his time in this series at times, but he's been someone who's been very quick race pace-wise and good consistency-wise. There's a reason he's been able to race at the highest levels. Gonna make the pass to the inside now. Got a lot of space to be able to complete it as well, to try and follow Juan Colfray on forward, 13 seconds back of the race leader.
And it's looking like, speaking of the race leader, it's stabilized a bit. Alex Fournier leads by 1 second from Moises Caraballo, with Michael Diaz in third. No battling going on for those top positions, but the battling is definitely going on for that 6th and 7th spot as we check out the very consistent gaps there that Caraballo and Fournier have between them. Daly was almost repassed by Deruel at the Tosa hairpin, so Deruel is not quite done with this.
Now he tried to get a little bit of a run, similar to what we've seen with Juan Colfray the last time. Couldn't get the grip though, and now it's just gotta focus on the clean space. Juan Colfray's already broken the draft by about a second or so. Daly knows he's quick when he gets himself into consistency. It's just that slipstream that's going to be so difficult to break, where if you keep on battling and battling and swapping, that's where the time is going to start bleeding the opposite way, to the point where, keep in mind, one slip up and you could possibly lose up to 3 spots with another driver joining the train.
Yeah, Justin Negrete in 9th place, up 3 places as Fournier sets another fastest lap. He is nice and comfortable out there in the lead. So, let's see then what Negrete can do. He's got Michael Overbay right in front of him, and doesn't seem like he's able to take full advantage of the slipstream there. Might be running slightly higher wing settings to get a bit more pace in the middle sector of the track. Stays nice and clear of those curves, keeping it nice and smooth. That's the key at Imola in a stiff car like this, but Deruel is starting to size up Byron Daly for another move, and it looked like Daly was a little bit unstable there through Villeneuve, but he hooked up the exit nicely.
Yeah, and he's been that consistent marker on those exits in particular. It seems, though, that the 21 set up to be pretty solid when it comes to the aero wash and the aero wake into the corners. Hasn't really struggled too much on the apex. It's just that difference on how much grip there is in the power down compared to how Ruel's really backing it up on the exits and letting it roll a little bit more compared to Daly.
Letting it roll indeed, and that's worked out into an excellent exit from the Acqua Minerale complex. Not going to be close enough to go for a move into Variante Alta. As we've mentioned before, really, the best place to make moves is Tamburello. Now, if Deruel can stick this close to Daly on the way into Tamburello, oh no, he's going to go for the move here at Rivazza. All right, let's see how it works out then. Locks up on exit, and he is ahead, but there's every chance that Byron Daly's just going to pass him right back.
Especially since we're at the halfway point, there's a lot to consider, especially knowing this is costing them time. They've lost about a second the last lap. Here they go again. Ruel trying to go a little bit to the outside, but Daly's got them better momentum with the draft. Overbay is saying he wants to go.
And he does go. Oh no, but contact is made. And Mr. Deruel gets sent off the circuit. That is 3 positions lost in the space of 2 corners there for Laurent Christophe Deruel. Doesn't look like the damage is too big, though. We'll get a replay of that one. Overbay with the opportunistic move up the inside. I don't think Deruel was expecting him to be there.
Yeah, I don't think he's seen the visual. Maybe wasn't expecting, 2 cars to try and pass him into one corner. You see right there, stays as hard to the inside, but there's the turn in by Ruel, gets into the rear tire, sends him off into the sand trap, loses him several positions, has to also let some of the time back. Both cars seem to be okay though, no significant damage it looks like.
Yeah, and I would say that it's not going to be a penalty for Michael Overbay as a result of that. He was he made the move cleanly up to the apex, and he was well ahead by the time they got to the turn-in point. Here's the battle for 12th, meanwhile. Greg Doucette, the AM leader, battling with Fernando Rodriguez in the number 12. And Doucette's having a very good race at the moment. He's got quite the gap here over his biggest AM competitor, John Almanar. Almanar is 9.1 seconds behind him at the moment, so he doesn't need to push too hard for maximum points.
It's been really solid, I will say, so far, and the thing is, because of a lot of the trouble drivers like Almanar had in qualifying, that big buffer has been huge. Overbay just let back the position, though, from Ruel because the contact before. The thing is, Overbay just cost himself a lot of time with that.
Interesting stuff. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the sportsmanship should be appreciated, but I don't think he really needed to do that, as we have our first pitters. Greg Doucette, our AM leader, is one of the cars in, and Mr. Gunderson is in there as well. Looks like James Carter pulled into the lane as well, with a very long stop for James Carter, 1 minute and 17 seconds. But the majority of drivers are taking pit stops around the 4-5 second mark.
Essentially trying to get some quick fuel, get some quick tires off and away, make sure they get to the end of the race. This is around that estimated window. Expected a lot of the front runners, though, to stretch it, as we've seen a little bit with the series' history, towards the very edge to be able to minimize the amount of time needed for fueling the tank. Bit of trouble towards the backdrop, as that is a lap car in Dinsmore who went off.
Yeah, a little bit of drama there for Matt Dinsmore in the gravel trap at Ravazza, no less, which is one of the worst places to go off, because you just continue that loss of momentum down the start-finish straight. Well, either way, Dinsmore, he will still be happy with how he's done in this race. Currently running in 24th and up 8 places because of all the retirements and mistakes that we've seen so far.
Yeah, currently just trying to keep the car on the track without major troubles. That's some of the main key points, right? Take advantage of the attrition, score some points. And keep in mind, some drivers have really had some rough moments. James Carter amongst those who had that lengthy time, the Atomic Racing Electron machine you see on board, trying to close things out here after that stop moments ago.
And Mr. Carter here doing a reasonable job here, down in 26th place. He's up 4 places. He would be hurting a bit from that long pit stop, but certainly he's keeping his consistency there, and he'll be able to get to the finish if he keeps it together. And definitely finishing races is the main deal in PRL Formula 3 this season, it seems. The season has been defined by drivers who have been fast out on track, but just little comings together, little mistakes have sorted the race results.
Exactly, especially those from the Gulf race in particular. 3 of the 4 DNFs involve those drivers. They had apparently having some troubles as well in the 30 after we've seen him lead the class earlier, and that's going to really shuffle a lot of the point standings. Here's one Cofre, the last of those Cofres still running, though. Still running away from Byron Daly. Last time by was a couple tenths slower, yes, but he still has that buffer that's very critical. Change for the race lead now.
Oh, Moses Caraballo going for it down the straight into the Villeneuve chicane. I noticed that he set a fastest lap a little earlier. I was thinking maybe he's unlocked a little bit more pace in the Precision Racing esports machine, and certainly into the lead he goes. That is a fantastic performance.
I don't think it's down to pace, though. Fournier made his first mistake of the race. Remember how much challenges we've seen into turns 1 and 2 today, and turns 3 and 4, I should say, with Tamburello? Hit some of the turtles, and that essentially sent him bouncing off the racing line. He's got this clean buffer about 1 second at the stripe that time by. And for the first time all race, he just turns it too much into the second part of the apex right there, hits the turtle, sends him off to the grass. And because of that, he has to lift off and try and get himself regathered, and that's where Caraballo immediately takes advantage. 2-second difference by the time he gets gathered.
Turned out to be a bit of an easy move for Caraballo. Well, now Fournier down in second place, but with Michael Overbay continuing to have a bit of trouble getting past Laurent Christophe de Ruel, looks like the championship lead might go to Alex Fournier as Caraballo comes into the pits. He's thinking, okay, I've got the race lead. Fournier made a mistake. Now it's time for me to jump in, get my service done, and see if I can get an undercut.
especially since he's been trying to hold on to the very edge of the draft, and I think that's going to be the critical thing as he had to pull ahead. That's going to cost him.
Yeah, that's going to cost him probably about a second in terms of pit stop time. He might have to find his way back past Fournier as a result of that.
This is a lengthy one. This is an even lengthier one. This is 13 seconds. Caraballo, I think, may have made a major mistake maybe on the entry, because this seems to be a costly time.
Oh man, 21 seconds in the pit stop compared to 5 seconds for everyone else who's had a regular pit stop. That's a huge shame there for Caraballo. In contention for victory, but he's going to be far away from it now.
Yeah, especially comparing that to the AM drivers who took 5 seconds. Yeah, that may have just set things up for Fournier potentially, but the matter is for Fournier, he can't afford another mistake like that again, because guess who's closing? Michael Diaz is now within 2.2 seconds, and he's sending into the braking zones.
Well, it's one Precision Racing esports machine traded for another as Diaz tries to make his way forward. Let's see how the well, actually, we'll check out then what laps these drivers have been setting. Diaz was the fastest car on track on that lap, 1 minute 37.149. As Fournier goes into the lane, Diaz is going to follow him in.
See how long the stops are based on some of the other differences we've seen before. Remember, 21 seconds for Caraballo, a massively long stop. Going to be critical for all these drivers to make sure they're on the jacks, on those edges very precisely. Diaz, clean. Fournier, clean. And that difference in time's already coming up. 4.6, 4.7 seconds. Near dead even on the stop.
Looks like Fournier was 0.2 slower on the stop, but does seem that Diaz still comes out quite a ways behind. We've got plenty more drivers coming into the lane now. Byron Daly and Justin Negrete, along with Deruel, Overbay, Ritters, Ridgway, Rodriguez, Kita, Almanar. The pit lane is absolutely pumping at the moment.
Well, 2/3 of the race seems to be the limit for just about everybody on the tank. Stephen Ridgway, quiet race for him. 4.6, about 5 seconds for Takeshi Kita. Just about everybody has completed their service now to make it to the end, except for a couple drivers who have had to serve some penalties here and there, it appears, throughout the day. But now it's going to get really intriguing. Fournier lost a fair bit of time once you gathered up that run off the exit. He picked up another 4/10 through the opening sectors to be able to get within now 1.8 seconds of Fournier.
Looks to me like Diaz is pretty strong here on those fresher tires, that colder rubber. Let's see what he can do with only 8 laps to go here at Imola. They'll be coming up to 7 when they cross the line. Fournier looking nice and stable over the curbs, and that's one of the big elements of driving a racing car at Imola in an open setup series. You want a car that is nice and stable over the curbs, particularly there at Variante Alta, where you can absolutely monster them.
And so far today, outside of the monster jump Fournier's taken, it seems both of them have been able to take the curbing where they need it to be taken fairly solidly. Not too many major shuffles in the suspension, not too many jitters once they go along the curbing, not too many major slip-ups. It's been very consistent pace-wise, but this is the better sector, I think, for Diaz. He's been really quick in Sector 1. Fournier's been quicker in Sector 2, up towards the start of Sector 3, however, and that's where the time seems to swing back to the current race leader's direction.
Well, it's 1.6, 1.5, 1.4 seconds. The lead gap is ebbing and flowing at the moment. And throughout all of this, Max Shabley has managed to move into third. Here's Caraballo trying to recover from his mistake in the pits. He's up behind Byron Daly now, and Daly is a huge mover in the top 10, up 7 places now. In fact, started in 11th. So it's been a really good run for the former NASCAR Pro Series competitor. But let's see what Caraballo can do, because remember, Caraballo running in second for most of the race and was able to briefly take the race lead. He's the one with the pace at the moment.
And I think Daly's got to know that. Know that there's a driver who's obviously going to be frustrated about their mistake, ready to try and make a move, and you can see Caraballo. Yes, the frustration you can tell is a bit there, but he also knows he can't set it up, say, right here. He needs to wait keep it as close as he can, even with some of the aero wake to deal with through the corner apexes, to then get the pass done down the front stretch. And Daly's had some struggles himself doing that. Caraballo, meanwhile, he's just trying to position himself for that run past the start and finish. And that's going to help.
Yeah, it's going to help indeed. A bit wide there for Byron Daly. Caraballo is right in it now. This is going to be a nice strong slipstream on the way down the front stretch. Let's see what he can do then. Can he get the move done before they get to the braking zone? Didn't get much benefit of the draft there, and they're going to be running even on the way into Tamburello. But inside for Moises Caraballo. Will he get it done? Yes, moves ahead at the apex. Byron Daly saw him coming and gave him room.
Good solid move, good respect shown by Daly right there. Daly looking like he's thinking about trying to see if he can get the pounce back, but Caraballo now just has to try and run away. He's had good pace. Now it's time to show Daly that exact same pace in front of him.
He's got some clear air, which should definitely help him get some consistent downforce across the car, and that'll help him through this flowing middle sector. Caraballo has about 3-4 seconds to make up on Max Chablis, who has moved into third place. Will he be able to get that done in 6 laps? I doubt it, but certainly Caraballo is going to have a red-hot go of it.
I think it's going to be very difficult with the amount of time left, even when you factor it in, because Caraballo, when he's quick, it's usually in part with the draft factor in. Last time he had it off track. That gave him 136.857, regardless. 137.6 in the clean space. It's just a matter, though, of if Caraballo can get in the draft, I think there's a chance, yes. If he doesn't, it's going to be very difficult, to say the very least, to close it in just on the raw pace in of itself.
Chablis there on his lonesome as well. He's not getting any draft assistance. Let's see if he can keep it consistent. Because if he makes one mistake, then Caraballo will be right there to pounce. See those laps there. Last lap for Chablis, a 38.1 versus a 37.3 for Caraballo. That is a huge pace difference. You know what? Looking at that, I think Caraballo might just be able to do it.
That was with the pass, though, too. You have to think about, and partly with the draft as well, to the inside. And he timed it up to where it was pretty clean. Keep in mind, things are getting interesting up front because Diaz is nearly within a second of Fournier. Lots of lap traffic they've just dealt with. That just lost Fournier 3/10. Diaz just nearly lost some time himself from it.
Oh, it's starting to heat up here for the race lead. Let's see who gets the best exit out of Acqua Minerale. They look pretty even, these two, so it's going to be quite interesting here in these last 5.5 laps, or 5 1/3, I should probably say. It's going to certainly be difficult for Fournier to lose too much time unless he hits one of those speed bumps in these corners, maybe a little bit deep into Ravazza 1, keeps it off the curbs in Ravazza 2, and that's another clean exit for him. Let's see what this lap time then works out to for both of them. Fournier coming across the line now sets a 37.078 as a 37.045 for Diaz. 37.4 actually for Fournier, and a 37.1 for Diaz, gained 0.3.
And that was with the traffic, as talked about. Now it's the matter of the difference of the corners. If Diaz can keep up with the wake now of Fournier, he's got a great chance with under 4 laps to go. By the way, Caraballo, he's on a whole full send mode. Fastest lap of the race, 136.7 in terms of the clean lap.
Goodness, he is absolutely sending it, is Moises Caraballo. He is leaving Byron Daly behind and still gradually catching up to Max Chablis. That was about 0.6 gained on Chablis on that lap. So let's see then what Caraballo can do to try and get a potential podium back after his mistake in the pits.
He's getting to the spot where he might have one chance, I think, Caraballo, to make the send by the time he gets the slipstream. And that's about it. If he makes any slip-ups, I think the chances to try and make the pass are gone, even if he gets within the 1 second heading towards the start of the final lap. He needs to be within that 1 second, even half a second, more so 0.4 by the time they take the white flag.
All right. We are set up for an excellent finish here in the Precision Racing League Formula 3 Series. We check out Caraballo as he continues to chase down Max Chablis. Going to be quite interesting, this lap time comparison. Caraballo on an absolute charge at the moment, and when you make a mistake, sometimes your motivation can be fettered a little bit. But Caraballo obviously taking it in the opposite direction. He knows that it's time to commit and it's time to send as they come across the line. It's a 37.1 for Chablis and a 36.9 for Caraballo. Didn't gain as much on that lap, but crucially, he is still gaining.
Still trying to close up, nearly at that 1 second buffer with under 3 laps to go now. I think he might get there, but he can't really slip too much. He only gained 0.2 last time. That's the tough thing for the podium spot. Keep in mind, Fournier, for reference, he's been able to stretch the gap back out, Reese, to where he's now nearly a 1.5 seconds ahead. And I think if you're Diaz, it's the similar type of marks. You have to be within more so 0.5 seconds to truly have a good run to make a pass on that final lap. You're outside that range. Yes, you're in the draft, but as we've seen, you don't get close enough to dive it on in unless you really lick the stamp.
Yeah, I think at this point, Diaz is going to have to rely on a mistake from Fournier if he wants to try and take this race win. But so far, it seems Fournier has kept it together. See how he goes into Ravazza. Nice clean run through the first section, and maybe missing the apex by a tyre width or so, but that's okay. He's able to pick up the throttle nicely and keep things going. Diaz was the fastest car on track last lap. Let's see if he is in the same position this time around. 36.8 for Fournier, 36.9 for Diaz. Fournier is the fastest car on track at the moment with 2 to go.
On that car that you just seen shuffle out of the pit lane, Brad Miller, who had to fix required damage this entire race for the most part, came out just about side by side with him. Chablis now has a friend behind him that's ready to take away a spot. Caraballo is in drafting range, and now it's down to for the 278 to set things up to make that pounce to take away third on the final lap.
Oh, yes, I'm looking forward to this, and they've got a little bit of lap traffic to deal with as well. Matt Dinsmore's up there ahead of him, but depending on when they get to him, I think it might be a clean move past. Let's see then what the exit is like out of Tosa. Chablis gaining just a little bit on Caraballo on the way down the run to the Piratella corner, this beautiful flowing left-hander, and Chablis went a little bit wide there. Caraballo hooked up the apex ever so slightly better. What's it going to be like then into Acqua Minerale? A bit more of a direct line for Caraballo and a bit of oversteer on entry. Goodness me, he is driving the wheels off that thing.
Really carried himself on forward, coming up to the white flag this time. Caraballo in a great spot to pounce. Now that lap traffic is really checking up the car ahead, the 55, not a good run. It might come before the final lap starts.
Chablis with the defensive line. Can Caraballo go for it? No, Chablis is going to protect the inside here, but Caraballo round the outside. He's going to get it done round the outside at Ravazza. What an incredible move that is.
I think the traffic really held up Chablis in particular, and he realized the pace was there. I'm going to try and defend and see if this works. And in the end, just Caraballo with the better run, able to pull on back. Now here's the counterpoint, though. Chablis tries to get the draft. This is exactly what the thought might have been.
All right. A bit later on the brakes, Caraballo yields, but Chablis is going to have a big compromised exit there. They're going to go side by side on the exit of Tamburello. Chablis has to give Caraballo room on the outside. Now this is going to give him the inside for the second section of the Villeneuve chicane. They come close to banging wheels. Caraballo almost off the circuit, and he is off the circuit. He's gone too deep. It was a valiant attempt to get the podium there for Moises Caraballo, but Chablis crucially ahead. Little mistake in the middle of Tosa, though. This isn't over.
Chablis just set this up to near perfection to be able to try and go for the cross back there. Try to get the draft back, pounced on back. But Fournier, he's all of a sudden fallen off a lot with some of the traffic factoring a bit ahead at one moment. It's about 9/10 and a big mistake.
Okay, here we go.
on the final lap. Can Michael Diaz get it done on Alex Fournier for victory? He's going to have to nail the braking zone coming into Ravazza. How much time does he end up making up? Diaz just a car length behind. It almost went wrong for Fournier, but he gets a clean exit out of Ravazza too, and only just gets away with it. Alex Fournier is going to win at Imola in the PRL Formula 3 series by less than 3/10. It was 2/10 at the line here with Michael Diaz behind. Goodness gracious, big drama here in the final laps, and it looks like Chablis. Oh, what's happened to Max Chablis? He's fallen down. Caraballo's gotten onto the podium. Byron Daly getting into 4th and Negrete into 5th. Max Chablis, something's gone incredibly wrong for him on the final lap.
Well, another chance came up for Caraballo despite the mistake because of lap traffic again. And it looks like Chablis ended up having contact in the battle for the final spot of the podium. They touched once in the previous corner complex. They nearly touch again and loop it around. This time, Chablis, as a result, from the top 3 to 6th in one final set of corners.
That's a big shame for Chablis. There we go. There's the move around the outside. Now, Chablis just locked up the rears, I think, unfortunately, and that lost him all of that momentum. All came apart right at the end, but Alex Fournier is going to be very happy with that victory as the minor positions get sorted. Laurent Christophe Deruel, I think, had to take another pit stop towards the end of the race for some reason. Might not have fueled up the car enough, but his teammate at the Advanced SimRacing Esports crew, Alex Fournier, with a excellent victory, and that will give him a big haul of points here for the championship. Brilliant stuff. We're going to step aside briefly here on the Global Sim Racing channel now. All the cars have crossed the line. When we come back, we'll have our official race results and interviews with our top 3.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-Box system, we install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Wow, what a race it was in the PRL Formula 3 series at Imola. An incredible finish with plenty of drama in the final laps, but Alex Fournier was the one who came away with the victory, 2/10 ahead of Michael Diaz. Byron Daly, with that early charge early on in the race, took advantage of the mistake from Max Chablis and completes the podium. Justin Negrete 4th, Chablis in 5th.
Michael Overbay, a nice consistent race for him. Championship leader going into this round, and he will finish in 6th. Stephen Ridders and Robert Ridgway will take 7th and 8th. Then it's Fernando Rodriguez in 9th, and Greg Doucette takes the AM class victory in 10th overall.
Takeshi Kita finished in 11th spot, 50 seconds back of the race win, with Alomar bouncing back from some mistakes to finish in 12th. Gunderson quietly finished inside the top 13 overall and was 3rd amongst the AM runners. Caraballo, after his mistakes and troubles, ends up finishing 14th up on the pylon after that battle with Chablis. A big dramatic finish for that fight. Then you have Gabriel Moro in 15th, then Ruel, after having to take a pit stop, coming to the white flag, then proceeding to cut through one of the corners, finished 16th. Neil Alexander 17th, with Echeverria in 18th. The last driver to lead lap was the points leader for the AM class entering today. Richard Swindell was a very quiet day, 28th to 19th, and Manuel Vargas rounded up the top 20.
Joining him a lap down was Matt Dinsmore in car number 3. James Carter finishes 2 laps down after a mistake in the lane. He's joined by Nick Karanjas and Ho Yin Lung. Very unfortunate for Ho Yin Lung. And pole position, it did not work out for him with contact on the way through. Brad Miller retiring from this one. The same goes for Colin Diaz and Michael Blaze. And then it is a Cofre graveyard at the bottom of the field. Juan, Michael, and Roberto all making mistakes. Julio Palacio was involved in the tangle with Ho Yin Lung. He retires as well. Sebastian Cofre, the first car out of the race. A big shame there for those guys. They lost out on big points. But we can get a chance here to talk to some of our podium getters here tonight. First off is going to be 2nd overall, Michael Diaz. Congratulations, Michael. Fantastic result for you. Certainly put the pressure on Alex Fournier towards the end.
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, it was a great race. I was pushing as hard as I could to try and catch him, but he had awesome pace. I swear, if I would have been 10 for 2 closer, I would have definitely sent it into the penultimate corner.
Well, certainly the draft was the biggest element here at Imola. It's so hard to pass in the middle sector.
For sure, especially with the aero wash. Going into turn, I think it's 6 or 5. You got a lot of understeer when you're close to someone, so it's really difficult.
Well, nonetheless, this is a very good result for you, getting 2nd place. And in terms of the Drivers' Championship, that should certainly help you out. You were 4th coming into this round after missing out on round 1. So do you think you'll be able to keep this form up?
Well, for sure, this result definitely helps. So hopefully I can keep getting nice podiums, maybe a few wins in there, and see what happens towards the end.
Well, we wish you the best of luck for that, Michael. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank for your podium tonight?
Oh, as always, my team and Moises Carvalho, Abner Acosta for spotting or trying to, and the guys at PRL, and for you guys for doing the broadcast. Thanks.
That's Michael Diaz, 2nd place on the road here tonight. It was an excellent 3rd place, meanwhile, for Byron Daly, a brilliant charge. Justin Prince is going to talk to him about that.
Yes, indeed. From 11th to 3rd spot in the conversation for the podium fight. And as a result of some of the craziness ahead, you're the one who finishes in 3rd. How would you describe your charge through the pack today to be able to get yourself in position here?
You know, honestly, again, I kind of benefited from just, things going wrong for some other guys. And honestly, that last lap deal, that's really unfortunate. Like, I kind of came out on the good end of it, but, I had no idea I actually got a podium until I was talking to one of the drivers there about it. And wow, yeah, I'll take it. I mean, starting 11th at the grid to P3, that's pretty good.
And it's a big change in fortunes where you started off the season with back-to-back DNFs, scored around 30, 31 points in the following rounds. But now, big points haul here today. How difficult has it been to try and get yourself back towards that championship conversation, a spot where you've been in the past at the pro level?
Yeah, honestly, the start of the season really kind of put me in a hole. That's difficult to build out of, especially with the guys in this league. They run really the front of the field is always there, and honestly, I haven't had the speed to really compete with them that much. So it's just been the matter of staying on the racetrack, trying to maximize what I've got, and luckily these last few rounds it's put me on the podium. So it's just one of those things, man. Like a championship season starts right off the rip, and I did not execute early, qualified poorly, and now we're qualifying a little bit better and staying out of the mess. Like I think Monza ended up flying into the tire barriers and parabolica. So it's just one of those things that you just sometimes it's just not your year or not your season, but you can salvage some points as you go.
Seems to have been that type of flow when it comes to the campaign. But now, second half of the campaign coming up, a big variety of some circuits where you have some tight circuits where it's going to be difficult to pass, but you also mix in Grand Prix style circuits like the Hockenheim Ring later on in the campaign. You also have Circuit de Villeneuve with its famous circuit and its wall of champions that drivers will be trying to avoid getting into said wall. Your approach for the second half of the campaign to join fully back into that conversation by the end of the season?
Yeah, I need to execute better. That's just what it is. Like if I can, work on me, start driving better, honestly, and then just kind of tuning the car a little bit more to what I think I need to go faster. I think I can, get back in the picture, at least, be in the conversation. It's just, no matter the track, like I'm pretty confident in, my ability to get around like most of these places with this thing. It's just going to be about executing and being where I need to be when we show up for race day. And I honestly haven't done a good job of that this season, but it's been turning around. So we'll just keep going and try to improve that form.
Anyone else you want to thank for today's run for this one?
Yeah, again, NinjaTrader Esports for, letting me on the team, and it's been fun working with those guys. You all at Global SimRacing for broadcasting this, and then obviously PRL for putting the league on. It's just it's nice to have a good open wheel league to run at nights, Eastern time. So it's been fun.
Once again, Byron Daly, top 3 for him tonight. Top 3 in the pro side, top 3 overall on the racetrack here, Reese.
Indeed, excellent result for Byron, and we're going to talk to our AM winner to finish things off, Greg Doucette. Fantastic stuff there, Greg. A nice consistent race for you, gaining positions and keeping yourself well ahead of your class competitors.
That's pretty much what it was. It was just consistency. Yeah, I was worried at the beginning of the race because I didn't really have a good setup going into the race, and Dinsmore, Caranges, and myself were all trying to do last minute changes to the setup, even in qualifying. So we weren't really sure if we had a good setup going into it. And I mean, I don't know if it was the setup or if it was just being consistent and kind of with the head down approach and what paid off, but it seemed to do the trick.
And with Richard Swindells finishing a bit down the order and you only being 2 points behind him coming into this round, that's the championship lead for you in the AM class coming out of this one. So you must be happy with that.
Hey, I'll take that all day long. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun to watch the standings every week and see where you stack up with the rest of the field. So, yeah, it was definitely something that was in the back of my mind when I was racing, and just knowing that you were with the possibility of getting points and being only second in overall. I was just trying not to screw up the last couple laps when I figured out that where I stood in comparison to the rest of the field. So.
Well, nonetheless, excellent result for you tonight, and you might be hoping for the same when we go to Phillip Island next week. Before we let you go, Greg, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I like to thank Whatever Custom Prints, Good Vibrations. Special thanks to my friends and family for watching and cheering me on. Also to my Throttle Thursday team, Nick Rangis and Matt Dinsmore, for helping me dial a car in. And of course, a huge thanks to you guys, the Global Sim Racing channel, PRL, and all the sponsors that make such a great production possible.
Thanks very much for joining us, Greg Doucette, AM winner tonight in a brilliant, consistent performance. Well, Justin, that's going to bring to an end proceedings for tonight. And wow, what some fantastic racing we saw this round. I can't wait for the Red Bull Ring and the Ferraris and Phillip Island for the Formula 3s next week.
Yeah, those respective races will be pretty intriguing when it comes to the run over to Steinberg. In terms of the flow of the track. It's a pretty quick lap. It's one with a lot of intenser moments up the track where there's plenty of spaces for mistakes. Phillip Island, I think, though, is going to be the trickier of the two because of how tight the circuit is and how difficult it can be to set up a pass there. So in other words, for a lot of the drivers, they'll be really tested, I think, to say the least, next time out.
I would say so too. Before we go, we want to give one more thanks to the series sponsors at the Precision Racing League. First off, Advanced Sim Racing. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And finally, NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more awesome work. Thanks to the team today, Justin, Joe, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the bottom of your screen. Also, please check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next time for this series, as we said, Red Bull Ring and Phillip Island. You can catch that on Thursday, April the 7th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Our next broadcast is going to be Grand Prix Legends at Knock Hill on the morning of April the 23rd. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.